Welcome to Grab a Beer, Let's Talk Gear. I'm Susan from Shoot to Thrill, the all-female tribute to AC/DC. I play the role of Angus Young in the band, and so I'm going to be talking about the gear I used to do that role. But first, we need to grab a beer. You grab yours. I'm grabbing a stout, a little Guinness from the fridge.
Grab a beer. Let's talk gear.
The first thing that is most iconic about Angus Young is probably his Gibson SG collection. I used two different Gibson SGs. The first one is this 1990 SG Standard. The SG kind of has its own little devil horns. I think that's one of the reasons that Angus has said before that he loves them. Very cool. This is the main Gibson SG that I use on stage. It actually belongs to a very beautiful friend of mine. She has had her original music on TV and in films. Jay Leno called her a hottie on The Tonight Show. He said I was okay. She's very successful in many, many projects. She's a singer, a guitarist. She is a songwriter. She's a producer. She's an audio engineer. She's amazing. So when she found out she was going to be in this band with me, she insisted that I borrow this beautiful guitar of hers. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Love it. My main guitar on stage. The second guitar I have on stage I use mainly as a backup, and that is another Gibson SG. This is a 1972 Gibson SG. It was sold to me by a friend of mine who, when he got it and he wanted to get rid of it, he said, "I have got to sell you this guitar." And I'm so glad he did. I love it, love it, love it. It's had some modifications from before I got it. If you can see, I don't know, can you see all these little holes here? There's a lot of little holes. I think it originally had a Bigsby on it, but that has been removed. It also has, if you notice, the locking nut up here, and then right down here are fine tuners. So all the tuning is done. Well, the rough tuning up here, then you lock it down, and then you have the fine tuners. I've had a lot of very helpful people try to help me, which is awesome, on stage, but I've never had one helpful helper realize that the tuning was down here, and so they'll be trying to tune it up here, and nothing's changing, obviously. So nice, beautiful fine tuners. The other modification that this guitar has had is the sweet P90 pickup here. The P90, I was thinking about replacing it because it's not truly the AC/DC sound, but it is an interesting sound, and I kind of have tone ADD, where I find an interesting tone and then I start playing that tone and then I tweak it just a little and, ooh, that tone's interesting too. And so when it comes to dialing something in, sometimes I get a little distracted. And anyway, this pickup has provided many distractions for me, because although it's not exactly the AC/DC tone, it does have quite a beautiful, beautiful tone of its own. It has the attack and twang of a single coil pickup, but it's got the beefy low mid range of humbucker. But it is very noisy, so I don't know, I still might swap it out, but kind of enjoying it. Also, this SG has a very, very thin neck compared with the standard. So, beautiful guitar. Beautiful, beautiful. Both of my Gibson SGs are black. And though Angus usually plays black or red, I really, really would love to have a green and maybe even the metallic sunset pink SG. Anyway, if anyone is selling one of those or has a lead on where I might be able to get one, I would really appreciate it. Just please comment below and let me know, because I would love, love, love to have some SGs and some other cars. So after the SGs, the Gibson SGs, I use a Sennheiser Evolution Wireless EW series G4. I just got this recently. I was having a lot of problems with dropout. I have had zero problems with this unit. It's amazing. Love it, love it, love it. Although the one downside is that I don't have it in a rack, so I often just leave it on the top of my amp. And we had a sound check and my guitar was screaming through the monitor, so I turned down my amp and the sound guy was like, no, it's coming through the mic. But I'm like, turn the amp all the way off. And he's like, no, it's coming through the mic on your cab. And I'm like, well, the amp is off. So it turns out, long story short, that he thought this was the wireless vocal mic. So apparently the one downside to this is that it looks like the Singer's. Anyway, it works great all the time for me. The only effects I use is a compression unit. It's a Dynacomp. It's the MXR version. I just use a compressor so that I can get, for solos, so I can get a little bit of sustain and a little bit of a boost on my volume. This particular compressor has done a wonderful job. It does, however, sometimes it's a little noisy, so I'm thinking about getting a different compressor. So if you have any suggestions, please comment in the comment section of the video so that I can perhaps check out some other possible compressors. My main amplifier when I'm not in the band is a Rivera M60. But for the AC/DC project, I really wanted to play through a Marshall. So for this project, I use mainly the JCM 900 series, and occasionally I'll use a JCM 800, it just depends on the situation. And again, with my tone AD, sometimes I start tweaking and get confused and lost and in love with the sound, and I forget where I'm going. So these amps are wonderful for that because they have such great sound. You can totally stay lost in them all day with their beautiful, beautiful tube amp, beautiful sounds. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Grab a Beer, Let's Talk Gear. Cheers!